Pennsylvania Turnpike crosses the southern tier of the state like a scar. 400 miles cut through the Alleghenies, with long stretches where there is nothing on either side but rock face and guide rail. On the night of October 21st, 2003, it rained hard from Somerset East to Breezewood. At 2:14 in the morning, a silver sedan rolled up to a cash lane at a rural toll plaza and stopped, because in 2003, you still had to stop. A camera on the canopy took one exposure. Black and white, 480 lines tall. The license plate is a white smear, and no software then or now can fix that. That frame sat on a reel of microfilm in a storage room in Somerset County for 21 years, and it was the whole case. Nobody wanted it because of what it wasn't. In March of 2024, Renata Vogel was running a document scanner in a Turnpike Commission records office, converting 61 boxes of microfilm because a retention schedule said she had to. 52 years old. Not a detective. A records analyst, 23 years with the Commission, working through a queue. On Reel 40, she came to a frame she had seen before. At 31, when she carried it into a state police barracks herself and was sent home. The man in the case was Harold Brubaker. Bedford County called him Hal. 54, half owner of a used farm equipment dealership outside Everett. The kind of man who sold a neighbor a tractor and then spent Saturday helping him fix it. He was last seen alive on the evening of October 21st, 2003, locking the office door. Tonight, an alibi built out of receipts. A man the town convicted with its mouth for 11 years. A $50 bill that traveled 118 miles in 6 hours, and a fire door that had been telling the truth in a public file since 2004. Bedford County is farm country folded into mountains. Everett holds under 2,000 people, 12 miles from the Turnpike. The roads follow the creeks, which means almost nowhere in that county is on the way to anywhere else. Brubaker and Shetler Equipment had been in business since 1989. Hal knew machinery and knew every farmer between Bedford and Hindman. Dennis Shetler kept the books, arranged the financing, and drove to the conventions. By the autumn of 2003, the part Hal could not stand to do had started to look wrong to him. Used equipment dealers ran on floor plan financing. A lender advances money against inventory, the dealer sells the machine and pays the lender back. Easy to abuse because the only thing between the dealer and the money is the dealer's own paperwork. In September, Hal pulled 6 files at random. 4 of the 6 machines had been sold. The lender had never been paid. On paper, those tractors were still on the lot, financed and unsold, about $290,000 that no longer existed. Hal did what a decent man does, which was the most dangerous thing he could have done. He told his partner and scheduled an audit with the lender for October 27th. Hal's truck was found at 4:20 the next afternoon, at a gravel pull-off on PA 96, 9 miles south of Everett. Driver's door open, keys in the ignition, dome light burned down to nothing. His wallet was on the seat. His glasses were on the dash. No blood in the cab and no Hal. A deputy walked the shoulder in the rain and bagged what was lying in the mud 11 feet from the front bumper, because that is what you are trained to do. Nobody opened that bag for 21 years. Marlene Brubaker had been married to him 29 years. She told the first trooper through her door 3 things, and all 3 turned out to be true. That Hal did not drink and did not wander. That he had been sick to his stomach about something at work for 3 weeks and would not say what. And that if his truck was sitting empty on the 96, somebody had put it there. It is in the report, 1 paragraph long. By the 3rd day, the barracks at Bedford had a homicide investigation without a body, which is the hardest kind there is, and everybody knew where it would start. With the partner. It always starts with the partner. Dennis Shetler was 118 miles away in Pittsburgh at a farm equipment dealer's exposition. He had been there since Monday, and he drove back voluntarily on Wednesday night when troopers reached him by phone. He did not lawyer up. He did not refuse anything. He sat down across a table and produced, without being asked twice, the most complete night of documentation that barracks had ever seen a suspect carry. A dinner receipt from a steakhouse on Penn Avenue, time-stamped 8:12 in the evening. 2 colleagues who ate with him and remembered the argument about grain prices. A keycard log showing his room door opened at 10:31 p.m. and not again until 7:04 the next morning. A housekeeping supervisor who passed him in the 9th floor corridor after 11 and said goodnight. 3.5 hours each way, on a good night. In the rain, more. Watch what he does with it, because this is the part that convinced everyone. He does not argue. He offers the timeline the way a man offers a receipt at a returns counter, then lets other people check it. He volunteers the audit and the missing money. He says he had been sloppy, that he meant to make it right, that Hal was upset and had every reason to be. A guilty man hides the motive. Dennis Shetler handed them the motive because the motive did not matter if the clock made it impossible. Here is what the state police would have had to prove, and could not. That between 10:31 at night and 7 in the morning, Dennis Shetler left a room whose door log said he never opened it, drove 118 miles east, killed a man he had worked beside 14 years, moved the body, moved the truck, and drove 118 miles back in time to shave. 6 hours of driving, every minute of it invisible. The audit went ahead on October 27th without Hal Brubaker. The money was gone exactly as he had said. Shetler was charged in 2004 with conversion of secured inventory, pled to it, paid restitution against his house, and served 11 months. And that, for 2 decades, was the shape of it. Everybody in Bedford County knew Dennis Shetler stole from his partner. Nobody could put him on the same road as his partner's body. The investigation belonged to a trooper named Dale Stoltzfus, 44, 19 years in, and by every account in the file, a thorough man who worked it hard for 11 months. He did not like Shetler and said so on the record, but he had a keycard log, 2 witnesses, and 118 miles of mountain, and he was not building a murder case against a physical impossibility. So he looked for someone the geography allowed. Orville Yoder was 26. He swept the floors, moved machines, and drove the parts run. $9 an hour. He was the last person to see Hal Brubaker alive because he was the last one out of the shop before Hal locked it. On the night of October 21st, he was home in a rented trailer outside Berlin by himself, watching television. No wife. No phone call. No one. He also had a claw hammer in the shop with a rust-colored stain on the handle, which turned out to be rust. $800 and a coffee can. 2 write-ups from Hal for being late. That was the case. None of it was evidence. All of it was atmosphere. He was interviewed 9 times, twice for more than 5 hours. He never asked for a lawyer, because in his understanding of the world, asking for a lawyer is what a guilty man does. He was never arrested. He was never charged. And in a county of 49,000 people, none of that made the slightest difference. A local paper ran the phrase, "A former employee remains a person of interest." It ran once. It never needed to run again. He lost the job when the dealership closed in 2004. The next 3 employers let him go inside a month. His girlfriend's family stopped speaking to him. In 2011, he moved to Ohio and told nobody in Pennsylvania where. 11 years of that, for a Tuesday night alone in front of a television. Hal Brubaker was found on November 19th, 2003, 29 days after he disappeared, in a reclaimed strip mine settling pond off a haul road near Hindman, 14 miles from his truck. Cause of death was blunt force trauma to the back of the head. The water in the 29 days took everything else. No trace evidence, no weapon, nothing to compare against anybody. The autopsy is 4 pages long. The last line says homicide, and after that the file goes quiet for 21 years. Go back to the night itself, and to the least glamorous piece of infrastructure in this story. In 2003, at a rural plaza after midnight, there was 1 lane open and 1 human being in it. The exchange was cash, and it was photographed, because the commission had been photographing cash lanes since the 80s to control theft by its own collectors. Not to catch murderers, to watch the till. In November 2003, a request from the Bedford Barracks landed on the desk of a 31-year-old commission analyst named Renata Vogel. Pull all eastbound plaza images, midnight to 4 a.m., October 22nd, and check them against Dennis Shetler's silver sedan. She pulled 206 frames. 205 were nothing. The 206th was taken at 2:14 in the morning at a plaza in Somerset County, and it showed a light-colored sedan whose plate was completely unreadable. Vogel did not stop on the plate. She stopped on the glass above it. In the bottom corner of the rear window, there was a small round decal. Volunteer fire company decals were sold across those counties every autumn, $5 apiece, consecutively numbered, and the companies kept the numbered stub books. In the frame, the number is a grey smudge. 4 digits, maybe 5. She could see it was there. She could not read it. So she built the argument on everything except the plate and drove to Bedford on her own day off to make it. A light sedan, matching body profile. A numbered fire decal of the kind sold in Rockwood, where Shetler's brother-in-law was an assistant chief. A cash lane halfway between a Pittsburgh hotel room and a gravel pull-off on PA 96 at 2:14 in the morning on the night a man vanished. And one more thing. On the collector's shift sheet, in pen, a large bill notation. Dale Stoltzfus listened to all of it. The file says he was polite. Vogel says he was polite. Then he said the sentence that cost 21 years. A plate you can't read isn't evidence. Half the cars in Pennsylvania are silver. Bring me a plate, or bring me the man's name in the till, and I'll take it to a district attorney. She had neither. She went home. The printout went into the file, and that is where the case stops for 2 decades. Not on a mistake, but on a standard. What nobody in that corridor understood was that everything Stoltzfus asked for already existed, on paper, in 3 separate buildings. In 2023, the Commission approved a digitization program. 61 boxes of legacy toll imaging microfilm, 1984 through 2006, to be scanned, indexed, and destroyed. Destroyed. The film was scheduled for disposal in September of 2024. Vogel reached October 2003 in the second week of March. She had not thought about the case in years, which is not the same as forgetting it. She scanned the frame, saw the smear where a plate should be, and sat in the dark for a long time. Then she did the thing a records analyst can do and a detective usually cannot. She stopped looking at the picture and went looking for the paperwork the picture came attached to. Every cash lane closed out on a shift sheet, ticket count, cash count, exceptions. Policy required a collector who took a bill of $50 or more to write the denomination, the time, and the serial number on the exception line. Not for the police. For internal audit, because large bills at 3 in the morning are how a dishonest collector launders a skim. The exception line for the 2 a.m. shift at that plaza on October 22nd has 1 entry on it. 214. A 50. 11 digits and a letter, copied out by hand. The collector was Vernon Hostetler. 57, 19 years on the plaza. He wrote it down because a man in a silver car handed him $50 for a $6.10 toll and did not want to wait for the change. Hostetler died in 2016. He was never interviewed about this case. Nobody ever asked him anything. His handwriting outlived him by 8 years, and it is the reason a man is in a state prison today. A serial number alone proves nothing. Bills move. But this bill was written down twice on the same day, 118 miles apart, and that is the entire case. That autumn, a counterfeiting ring was passing bogus 50s through downtown Pittsburgh restaurants. The Secret Service issued an advisory, and several restaurants on Penn Avenue began logging the serial number of every large bill across the bar. Their bank kept those logs in the deposit record. One of them was the steakhouse where Dennis Shetler ate dinner at 8:12 that evening. Corporal Luann Ferguson took Vogel's call at Bedford on the 29th of March. 39, 7 years on major casework. She has said since that she nearly logged it as a records inquiry and moved on. What stopped her was that the woman on the phone did not ask her to look at a photograph. She asked her to subpoena a bank's deposit record from October 2003 and gave her the serial number to look for. The bank still had it. Banks keep everything. The bill in Hostetler's till at 2:14 had crossed the bar of that steakhouse at 7:51, been logged by a bartender on the watch sheet, and gone out as change at 8:12 to a customer settling a $41 tab in cash. That put the money in Shetler's pocket. It did not put Shetler in the car. So Ferguson went back to the pull-off on PA 96 in the form of a paper envelope that had sat on a shelf since 2003. 4 pieces of clear headlamp glass collected 11 feet from the front bumper of Hal Brubaker's truck by a deputy who did it because the manual said to. Not from Hal's truck. That truck had rectangular sealed beam lamps, both intact. This glass came from a curved composite lens assembly of the kind fitted to mid-90s passenger cars, and one fragment carried a molded pattern matched to a single-part number. The right front headlamp assembly of a 1996 General Motors sedan. Gene Calbor has run a body shop in Myersdale since 1979. He writes every job on a 3-part carbon invoice and has never thrown a copy away. Ferguson asked him for anything from the last week of October 2003. He went into a back room and came out in 20 minutes. October 30th, 2003. 9 days after Hal Brubaker disappeared. One right front headlamp assembly, used, out of a salvage yard in Hindman. One right front turn signal housing used. Labor, an hour and a half. $94, cash, no insurance claim opened. The customer's name, the vehicle, and the vehicle identification number are all on that invoice in Calbor's own hand, because on a cash job with no claim, the VIN is the only thing protecting the shop. The VIN belonged to a 1996 sedan registered to Dennis Shetler. A man whose partner vanished on the 21st, who was in Pittsburgh all week, who was never near a gravel pull-off on PA 96, paid cash on the 30th to replace the right front headlamp of his car with a used one at a shop in a different county. And the frame taken at 2:14 in the morning on the 22nd shows the right front lamp of that sedan already dark. Ferguson had the money, the glass, and the repair. What she also still had, sitting across all of it like a wall, was a keycard log saying Dennis Shetler's door did not open between 10:31 at night and 7:04 in the morning. The defense would hand a jury that log on day 1. Until it broke, nothing else mattered. Vogel found the weak point in the wall, and she found it in an index. A keycard log records one thing. Keycards. It does not record stairwells or fire doors. And a 9th floor guest who does not want his door log touched has an obvious option. He takes the stairs and leaves through a door that opens from the inside without a key. Those doors are alarmed. Alarmed doors keep their own log on a separate system maintained by a different contractor. In February 2004, the Pittsburgh Bureau of Fire cited that hotel for chaining 2 stairwell doors during a private event. At the hearing, the hotel's defense was to submit the alarm system's own printout to prove the doors were monitored and working. That printout became an exhibit. Exhibits attached to a municipal fire citation are a public record, and they are retained. It covered October and November of 2003, and it sat in a public index for 20 years, available to anyone who walked in and asked. The line for October 21st reads 12:41 a.m. 9th floor south service stairwell, ground level egress, alarm point open, 4 seconds. The next entry on that door is 4:58 a.m. Open, 6 seconds. 4 hours and 17 minutes. Somerset County is 2 hours and 5 minutes from that hotel, hard driving, in the rain. He went out at 12:41. He was at the plaza at 2:14. He was back inside before 5. And his room door, the only thing anyone thought to check, never opened once all night. Ferguson drove out to tell Marlene Brubaker before the arrest, because she did not want her hearing it on television. Marlene is 72. She had spent 21 years being visited on anniversaries by troopers who had nothing, and the last 11 defending Orville Yoder to people in her own church because she had never once believed it was him. She asked one question. She asked how long the fire door paper had been public. Ferguson told her the truth. 20 years. Dennis Shetler was 62, living 9 miles from where he had lived in 2003. Remarried. Retired. 6 seasons coaching youth baseball. They took him on a Thursday morning in his own driveway. He said one thing to the arresting troopers, and it was not a denial. He asked which of the 2 counties this was. The interview ran 5 hours and 9 minutes. They did not lead with the photograph, and they never showed him the glass. They let him tell the whole story again. The steakhouse, the grain prices, the supervisor in the corridor, the keycard log. He got through all of it. 21 years of practice. Then Ferguson put down the fire door printout, the shift sheet, the bank's serial log, and Calbor's carbon copy, and asked him nothing at all. He looked at the 4 pieces of paper for a little under 2 minutes. Then he asked whether the toll collector was still alive. Orville Yoder is 47. He runs a mowing crew outside Zanesville, Ohio. Ferguson called him, told him the case was closed and that he had never been a suspect, and read him the sentence she intended to say publicly. He thanked her. He declined to come to Pennsylvania for the press conference and declined to be interviewed. He told her he had stopped needing the state to say it out loud somewhere around 2009. Dennis Shetler pled guilty in the spring of 2025 to third-degree murder rather than face a jury on first, and was sentenced to 20 to 40 years. He will be eligible at 83. Dale Stoltzfus is 65, retired near Bedford. He has never publicly discussed the printout he was handed in a corridor in 2003. Everything he said that day about what evidence is was correct. Renata Vogel still works in records. She was not commended. There is no procedure for commending a records analyst. Every piece of this case existed before Hal Brubaker was in the ground. A bill written down twice in one day. 4 pieces of glass in a paper envelope. A $94 cash invoice with a VIN on it. A fire door printout filed as a public exhibit. None of it was hidden. It was routine paperwork, kept by people who had no idea what they were holding, in 4 buildings that never spoke. An alibi built out of everything a hotel could prove held 21 years. Then came apart on the one door nobody thought to ask about. At 2:14 in the morning, in the rain, for $6.10. If a case in your county has been sitting in a box, tell us where to look. Put case in the county in the comments.